In the winding streets of Paris's second arrondissement, where historic arcades mingle with markets, cafes, and the shadow of the old stock exchange, there is a small cake that's as understated as it is elegant. Shaped like gold bars, financiers were created for busy bankers in the 1800s, and they were made to be eaten on the go. But their history may go even further back than that, so we'll explore that in today's video when I bring a little piece of Paris into your kitchen. These little browned butter almond cakes are so simple and elegant, and they can be whipped up in no time for a friend coming over for coffee or tea. I'll even show you how to make them into a small cake for something more impressive but equally as simple. So let's get started. Traditionally, financiers are made in little loaf shapes, but I decided against buying a financier pan just because most people don't have them, and a muffin tin works just as well. So you can go out and buy one if you want, but if you have a muffin tin at home, there's really no need. Financiers are what I would call a pantry staple recipe, which is just a recipe made of ingredients you usually have on hand. So if you have someone coming over that you weren't expecting and you want to whip something together, you can just look in your pantry, in your refrigerator, and you probably have everything you need to make it. So for this, you just need butter, almond flour, powdered sugar, flour, and egg whites. And so it's such a simple 5-ingredient recipe. You can add different flavorings to it to customize it, but you also don't have to. The true financier is just these 5 simple ingredients. The heart of the financier is the browned butter. In French, this is called beurre noisette, which literally means hazelnut butter. And honestly, what a perfect description for it, because it really does have a nutty taste and aroma. So I've added my unsalted butter to a skillet here, and I'm just heating it on medium heat. As the butter heats, it will start to bubble and froth, and I'm just swirling it in the pan a bit so I can keep an eye on the color, and I can also keep it from burning. If you leave it in one spot for too long without swirling it, it may burn really quickly. You want it to be golden brown, not black, because that will take it from a sweet nuttiness to a bitter burnt flavor. And I actually recommend using European style butter here, something like Kerrygold. If you're in the United States, Kerrygold is Irish butter, and it's pretty easy to find in grocery stores around here. European style butter is a higher butterfat percentage than American butter. Because it has a higher fat percentage, that means it has a lower water content, and so it won't foam and sputter as much when you heat it up. If you can't find it or it's too expensive for you, you still can use American butter. You'll just want to keep an eye on that color underneath the foam. You want to push the foam away and just always keep an eye on those milk solids at the bottom of the pan, because that will give you the indication of whether you're heating it up too long, and if those milk solids turn black, then you've gone too far and you might have to start over. Once you achieve that golden butter, then you're just going to pour it into a bowl and let it cool down just until it's about warm, so that it doesn't curdle your egg whites when you mix it into the ingredients. Once the butter cools, I'm going to mix together the dry ingredients. So just because almond flour tends to get a little bit lumpy in storage, I like to sift it before I use it. So I'm just going to sift all of the ingredients together, all the dry ones. So I'm just adding almond flour to the sieve, and then also all-purpose flour. And then once this is all sifted together, then I'll add the powdered sugar, which I also find gets a little bit lumpy in storage. So it's nice to just get all of that out, because you want these financiers to have a really fine texture. Now you're going to make a well in the dry ingredients and add in the egg whites. And these are unbeaten egg whites. And because we're not beating them into a meringue, if you get a little bit of egg yolk in the egg whites as you're separating them, not the end of the world, because you don't need to keep them pristine for turning into a meringue. So just stir until you have all the dry ingredients incorporated, and then you're going to pour in a little bit at a time the cooled down brown butter, and just stir that until you have a really smooth, silky consistency. If you're enjoying this video and have learned something so far, I hope you'll hit the like button and consider subscribing. I make videos that I would call little
culinary travel adventures where we make a European baked good and learn about the place and the culture that they come from and any traditions or history surrounding the baked good. So if that's something that interests you, I hope you'll stick around for more videos like this one.
So now I'm just covering the bowl. I'm gonna place the batter in the refrigerator, let it chill for an hour, and then we're gonna put it in the muffin tin and let it bake. So now that it's had time to chill, I'm going to spoon about a tablespoon into each little muffin tin, and you might need a little bit more than a tablespoon, but just evenly distribute a really small amount into each one.
My financiers are going to be round, but traditionally they're baked into the shape of a gold bar. Pierre Lacombe wrote in Mémorial historique de la pâtisserie that was published in 1890 that a baker named Lannes created the financier. His bakery was located on the Rue Saint-Denis near the Paris Stock Exchange, and he took an already existing treat called a visitandine and changed the shape of it for his patrons who worked in the financial district. Originally, these were baked in an oval shape by the nuns of the Order of the Visitation, or the Visitandines, and they would bake them and distribute them to the sick that they would visit. And Visitandines are still made today, but they don't contain browned butter. So that's where they differ from the financier. So it appears that Lannes, the creator of these, just took an older recipe, changed one of the ingredients from regular butter to browned butter, and then changed the shape of them. So you'll see here that I'm garnishing my financier, and the world is your oyster here when it comes to how you can garnish them and how you can flavor them. I'm using flaked almonds and raspberries and little squares of chocolate, but really you can use whatever sounds good to you. You're going to bake these at 400 degrees Fahrenheit for 5 minutes, and then you're going to lower the temperature to 350 and continue to bake them for another 10 minutes and remove them when they're golden, and you can insert a toothpick and it comes out clean. Let them cool in the pan for about 15 minutes before you try to remove them, then place them on a cooling rack and let them cool down before you enjoy them. Now, if you want to serve these as a cake instead of little cakes, then you can simply mix together some flour and some almond flour and then powdered sugar, half a teaspoon of vanilla extract to some egg whites, whisk that together just until frothy, and then mix that into the dry ingredients like you did before. And then you're also, after you mix this together, you're going to stir in the browned butter just like you did with the small version of this. And then once that's all mixed together, you're going to fold in a cup of fresh raspberries. Now you'll want to pay attention to the measurements of this because it is different measurements than the small version of this, just because it needs to be expanded in order to fit an 8-inch cake pan. But you can find the ingredients on the screen as well as in the printable recipe below this in the description box. Then you're going to pour the batter into a greased and floured 8-inch cake pan and bake this at 375 Fahrenheit for 40 minutes until golden brown, and you can insert a toothpick into it and it comes out clean. Then you're going to let it cool in the pan and then remove it and serve it at room temperature with a sprinkle of powdered sugar and maybe even a little bit of whipped cream.
So this is a completely different day. I didn't get a chance to film myself trying the financier, but they were delicious. I loved them. I especially loved the financier cake where you fold the raspberries into it. It had a different consistency than the individual financier. Those were a little bit of a firmer texture, had more of an almond flavor. The one with the raspberry, it was like a very moist almondy cake. So I definitely recommend both of them. I like that the financier are little individual cakes that you can serve for guests or just something small to eat with a cup of coffee. But I also love that the other one had fresh fruit in it, which lent it to more of a moist, fresh flavor. So definitely give these a try. And if you want another French dessert, this one I bring to parties all the time and I always get compliments. This is Gâteau Nantais, and it is a rum cake from Nantes, France, and it's absolutely delicious. It looks really simple, but it tastes amazing. So watch that video next and I will see you next time.